Lewis Hart for The Ring magazine. Delighted today to be joined here in Surrey with Adam Booth at the gym. Look, Adam, appreciate letting me come down. Always good to speak to you. How are you, mate? How is everything?
Yeah, I'm good. In the thick of training, so every day we're tired, get up and repeat.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, a busy gym as ever, but busy. We're about a couple of weeks away now for David Adelaide before he takes on Filip Hrgovic in Saudi Arabia. I guess excited for that challenge with David, and obviously, a big step up for himself.
Huge, and it's why we're in boxing, to take the fights that you can win and you can lose, because that's where the stress and the fear and all of the right chemicals come in for combat sport, and David definitely seems to be thriving on the fact that there is that threat in front of him.
When it comes to a heavyweight as well, and someone like David who is taking a massive step up, is there always I don't know how to put it, but is it sometimes easier as a heavyweight, like that gap between sort of making that step up is somewhat what easier, would you say?
Well, I'd say technically yes, because in the lower weight divisions you've got fighters that technically do a lot more things. In the heavyweight division it's a bit more bread and butter. There's some more obvious styles, Usyk aside and maybe Fury aside as well, but you're normally looking at less technical issues to have to deal with, and it becomes a lot of the time more to do with the physicality and the psychology.
Mm-hmm. And when it comes to someone like David as well, when do you think, as a trainer as well, and looking after him, you feel like, okay, this is the right fight to take? Although it's a big step up, we know that it's one that's confident. Like, how do you know sort of when the right time is? Saying, especially look at the Hrgovic fight, feeling like, look, we know we're ready for this.
It's the same for any coach or manager. You look at the risk, you look at the reward, you look at what your guy can do to win the fight, you look at what the other guy can do to beat your guy, and you start to make your assessment and work to, and then plan to work towards it. That's combat sport in the true sense of the word, where you're taking risks and you're taking challenging and threatening fights.
Mm-hmm. And for David as well, obviously I know that there was the TKV rematch was potentially there as well. What was the deal with that, I guess, sort of going in a different direction from that to then Hrgovic?
Risk over gain. What's the gain of beating Jamie TKV again? Nothing. You're British champion and you've beaten someone that you just beat before. So where's the gain? Mm-hmm. Look at Filip Hrgovic's ranking and the fact that he's just beaten Joe Joyce. Mm-hmm. Joe Joyce, who beat Joe Parker. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. So what's the gain is the world ranking, the status, and the proof to yourself that you do belong to hang at that world level. Mm-hmm. Massive difference between the two. It's almost incomparable.
What do you make of Hrgovic as a fighter?
Really good. I've known Filip ever since I think he was 20 years old and came and sparred with David Hay. Fearless, tough, can be relentless, decent right hand, very understated boxing IQ. You don't get to that level as an amateur without having the boxing IQ. He's a world level operator. Mm-hmm. There's no doubt about that.
Mm-hmm. And I guess when you look at the sort of the development that David's sort of come on since under yourself, how do you feel like he's developed as a fighter, especially when he matches up against someone like Filip too?
Well, David's boxing career path is the complete opposite of Filip's. Filip had however many elite level international amateur tournaments and wins and medals. And then as a pro, he's been a pro for quite a few years now, and he's fought world ranked fighters. David's different. David's just a naturally gifted athlete with power, who's tough and has a fearless mentality. But his career trajectory is the complete opposite, where all of a sudden he'll be a bit like a shooting star, where out of nowhere he can burst onto the world scene. It's happened before though.
Yeah, interesting stuff. Did want to move on, obviously, to see Josh Kelly in the gym today as well, sort of preparing, getting ready, ticking over. Obviously, there was news that come out that we'll touch on to regarding Jaron Ennis, but at the moment, sort of happy with how things are going for Josh, and as he looks for a big fight in sort of towards the end of the year.
Well, that's it. Like, we wanted the big domestic fight last year, and that didn't come off. But he's been world ranked now for a long time and in the top 5 for a long time, and it's literally a question of trying to get that world title fight, final eliminator, that big name, big fight to break through onto the world stage.
Well, we'll touch on a big name that was mentioned with Josh's name yesterday was Jaron Ennis, who's making a move up to 154. Eddie Hearn come out and spoke to multiple outlets, including IFL TV, about an offer that was sent to Josh Kelly about the fight I'm not sure if there was a potential date or October time, but I guess I'd ask yourself, Adam, what is the latest with this offer that was sent to Josh?
I spoke to Eddie's lawyer less than 24 hours ago. The date was pretty sure October the 11th in Philadelphia. I think that's what they said. For a fight purse that Eddie knows full well is derisorily low. It's less than half of what Josh has been paid for a 10-round bout, and Eddie knows that. So, and then the fact that he's gone straight to the media rather than speaking to me. Every fight I've made with Eddie over the years, I've spoken to him directly. I haven't heard from Eddie. It was Sean that contacted me, made the offer, and then said, we need an answer within 24 hours because we had other options. Okay, and I put the phone down, and less than an hour later, I see it popping up all over the social media. I thought, okay, well, Eddie's trying the old tried and tested route of using the media to negotiate and pressure someone into taking a fight for money that he knows isn't the right money. We want that fight. We want all of them. Josh won't now hide from anyone. But if Eddie is serious about making that fight, then obviously he has to speak to me and make a serious offer.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I mean, if the offer was right and the money was right, that's a fight that you go into being confident against someone like Boots.
Josh will fight anyone. Just make the right offer. Eddie, and if you don't want to take a fight, you outprice yourself. If you don't really want to make a fight, you make a lowball offer. You make an offer that you know isn't enough. And it feels like that at the moment, but let's see what transpires today. And with regards to, hurry up, give us an answer, we've got other options. If you have other options, don't put pressure on me. There's still over 10 weeks to go, I think, from the date that you mentioned. And if there's not enough time to have a proper discussion and a proper conversation, then so be it. But we're here, and Josh wants that fight.
Yeah, as I said, do you think they're serious about wanting to make that fight then?
We will see. We will see when it comes down to the nitty gritty, and the nitty gritty are the terms. But Eddie's done this for a long time, and so have I, and we'll see how this plays out.
Do you feel like, especially when you look at Matchroom and Team Boots, they understand the risk that goes into a fight like fighting someone like Josh Kelly with his style?
WBO rankings. The champion is now Xander Zayas. The number one contender was Perez, who's just lost to Zayas, so he drops down. The next challenger is Josh Kelly, and the one after Josh is Jaron Ennis. So it makes absolute sense to try and make that fight because it would look like a World Cup semi-final. It could be a final eliminator. So I get it makes sense. And if you want to make it, then make us the right offer. We want the fight, and we'll talk business. That's
what I mean. When it comes to fighting someone like Boots as well, like he's obviously somewhat a name in America. He sells a lot of tickets in Philadelphia on the East Coast. And I know Josh would want a world title, but do you feel like a fight against Boots, albeit he's got no world title, it's almost as good as that? Because
it is. Yeah. It is, and it's possibly a harder fight than a couple of the world champions in that division. We're under no illusions, which is where risk over gain and the value of the fight's got to be right. Josh will take that fight. If Eddie wants to negotiate through IFL and Ring Magazine, then so be it.
Okay, interesting. You mentioned about world champions at 154, and there was a name that I wanted to bring up in Bakhram Murtazaliev. I know after the Flavius Bayer victory, it was sort of yourself was talking about that fight, Josh was talking about that fight, and I know that there was a boxing scene report about an offer, or not an offer, but a fight potentially being made for the Canelo Crawford card. From your latest, sort of, what's the deal with this fight? And it's still a fight that you'd want being the Murtazaliev fight?
I instantly chased that fight, and Josh wanted it. So straight after Josh's last fight, I was speaking with Kathy Dubois, and we understood that there was a certain time frame because of the IBF mandatory that may be installed, which is Erickson Lubin.
Yeah.
I was also told that there's potential interest in making this fight as part of the Riyadh season event on the undercard of Crawford and Canelo. So I was like, oh great, yeah, let's talk Turkey. And I went inside the British market, and none of the networks had a date available that would have satisfied the time period prior to a mandatory challenger being established. So a UK TV, an offer from our side was off the table because of the time frame. But I was told that the Saudis had an interest in it, and the Turkey Al-Sheikh was sort of invested in Murtazaliev, but we never had a single offer. We will take that fight, but we never had a single offer to take that. And I've heard it said that everyone's scared of Murtazaliev, and the offer's been made and no one's accepted. Well, Josh is not scared of Murtazaliev, but no offer was made to us.
Yeah, that's fine, because I remember seeing a Murtazaliev tweet sort of atting Josh saying, is the English guy scared now or whatnot? And look, Aegis Klimas, I remember Krasic coming out and saying, look, sort of no one really wants to fight Murtazaliev because of that market, but clearly Josh is one of the people that is willing to sort of step up to the plate and challenge him.
I'll say again, I had multiple conversations with Kathy Dubois, and we set out our interest in wanting to make that fight. No offer was made. What am I supposed to do? You don't make us an offer. The English TV market is full in the period that this fight has to be done. So I couldn't make an offer for that fight, but we want it. I heard that there was an interest in it for the September 13th date. I said, great, let me know, and that was it.
I also wanted to ask you, Adam, as well, with Josh obviously has a very defensively sound style where, you know, he's slick, etc. And it was a big thing that was made, especially the Shakur fight of Turki Al-Sheikh coming out and talking about sort of the Tom and Jerry fights. But you feel like it is a case of Josh as well saying, like, look, when he takes the steps up, you know, we will see this sort of class and what a class mover can do, in a sense.
Absolutely. I mean, the reference to Tom and Jerry fighters is to do with fighters that move around the ring on the back foot. But over the history of boxing and all martial arts, you have different styles, and you have fans that are drawn to different styles. You can have someone that comes forward, tucks up and tries to blast away. You can have southpaws that are tricky. You can have guys that move on the back foot and are tricky slicksters, like a Willie Pep, like a Cassius Clay, like a Ray Robinson at times, like a Ray Leonard at times. You know, so if you're talking about Tom and Jerry fighters being fighters that move around the ring, then you've got to put it in that category. But Tom and Jerry fighters can be equally as dangerous and as hurtful when the time requires it.
Do you feel like it is the case with Josh, like when he takes that step up, and especially against someone like aggressive, like a Boots who throws a lot of punches, or a Murtazaliev who is a sort of a come forward fighter, that's when we would see the best of him, because that gets the best out of his style in a sense?
Well, he'd have to. That's when he'd have to, at times in these fights, you've got to stand there and prove yourself and get the man's respect. If you just move away from a world-class fighter, he's just going to keep hunting you down. You need to get their respect, and the only thing that world-class fighters truly respect is if you can hurt them. And Josh is now in his prime. He is a hurtful puncher. He now believes that completely, and he can mix up his elusive, tricky style with hurtful punching, which he's shown of recent times in his fights.
Absolutely. A couple last ones from myself, Adam. Did want to ask about Usyk Dubois. I'm having a chance to speak to you about that yet. What did you make of that fight, and especially with Usyk Dubois?
Usyk showed another side to him that he hadn't shown before. I think he knew that Daniel was going to be way more aggressive, and so he decided to meet fire with fire, and he did. And he punched, and he was more aggressive than he had been early in the fight. You could see that he knew that Daniel was going to be aggressive, and that's what he did. He met him head on to get his respect, because Usyk has this beautiful gliding lateral movement style where he glides out to his right all the time. You're never going to catch him with straight shots. You have to be able to lead with hooks to stop someone drifting that way. And Daniel didn't. Daniel just kept chasing him with straight shots and made it sort of relatively comfortable for Usyk to stay elusive. What was impressive is how, as the naturally smaller man in his late 30s, Usyk proved that he's got another part to his game that he can bring in if required, and that's just what's making him an all-time great.
It's incredible. Yeah, and a final one for myself. Did want to ask yourself about sort of the recent things that have come out about Francisco Rodriguez Jr. with his failed test after the Galaway fight. Adam, I know you're always sort of big on drug testing in boxing, but obviously there's been a WBC ruling on this that they put him on like a probation for 12 months. Claiming that he unknowingly ingested this substance with random testing over this 12 months, has ordered a rematch. Obviously, since come out yesterday, Eddie Hearn said that this Rodriguez Jr. has failed a drug test for a fight in December as well with a no contest. It does seem like quite a messy situation, but what are your thoughts on as this transpires?
Well, I still have no confidence in the whole process of dope testing and how people that test positive are treated, and allowing people that have failed dope tests to keep competing, having failed previously, it doesn't sit right with me. I mean, I don't know the full details. I don't know what compound we're talking about that was in his system, or the amounts. It seemed to be dealt with pretty quickly. Why? I don't know. You know, the question is, are the governing bodies and the promoters and the networks doing everything they can to stamp out dope cheating in a combat sport where people's lives are at risk? No, none of them are. And so I'll forever be disgusted with it until I see a change in the system. I'm not necessarily talking about the fighters individually, because some fighters fail tests, but ultimately shouldn't have failed tests, and they're victims of that circumstance. But there are other fighters who clearly fail repeatedly and keep being allowed to step back in the ring and put harm on another man. Stinks. Don't like it.
Yeah, especially when you look at the way some tests have been handled after, sort of, especially in the last few years. Yeah, do you feel like what even is the resolution? Because there seems to be no harsh punishment for people that do.
Ultimately, what determines everything is money, and if there's money and interest in a situation, then you're gonna get away with it. If you don't bring commercial value and you get caught, then you'll be the one that they use as the scapegoat. See, we are doing what we can. But my question is, to all the fans that actually genuinely care about this, because everyone pipes up when it's a topical moment, and then the cameras get switched off and no one makes any change. The question is, the people that have the effect and the influence are the broadcasters, are the promoters, and are the governing bodies. Are each of them doing everything they can to stamp out dope cheating in boxing? No, they're not. Which means that the fighters are always the ones that are left vulnerable and potentially in harm's way of someone that is something that they shouldn't be naturally. The whole structure of it stinks. And I know VADA they do everything they can. But there's ways of swerving it. There's ways of swerving it where a fighter just doesn't sign a contract for a fight until 4 or 5 weeks before. And I know full well that dope testing for a fight, if it's done properly, needs to be done 12 to 16 weeks or more before a fight. So straight away, VADA aren't appointed until a fight contract's been signed. So that's where it comes. That's where it's on the promoters and the broadcasters to try and insist on a time frame and clauses in the contracts.
Yeah.
I'm going into detail now. Bottom line is, no, I don't believe that they are all doing everything they can to stamp this out.
Yeah.
And so until that happens, it stinks.
Yeah, I agree. Well, it's madness. But Adam, appreciate you always letting me come down. Always good to speak to you. And I'm sure it won't be too long since we're catching up sometime soon.
Nice one.
Appreciate it. Thank you.